Hey everybody, I hope you've all had a great morning so far. Um, Definitely happy because it is Friday, but yeah, I've still got the rest of the work day after this, but that's okay. Um, Working on some shaders will definitely cheer me up, I think. Let's get right to it, I guess. Alright, so yeah, we've been working on shaders yesterday, or for the last couple days, and yesterday we just finished tweaking the specular highlights, which speculars is a fancy term for these highlight shapes. Let me mute my phone real quick. Sorry about that. And okay, it looks a bit weird here because we need to load into the game for the textures to be set properly. Yeah, so it looks better like this. And we can see specifically on the egg dino, I have it set so that the green areas don't have as much of a specular highlight as the eggshell. And so when we move the specular over the face, you can see it just a very faint highlight right there. And yesterday I was working on the specular map, which this basically, let me pull up the actual color map. This is Egg Dino's basically texture. And we wanted the green areas not to have as strong of a specular, so what I did is I pulled down the red component right here, and the red component controls the strength of the specular light. And there are other ones too, like the green is I think the size of the specular highlight, and the blue is an offset, so you can make the specular highlight look more like a ring. And I actually fixed, like at the end of the stream, I wasn't able to test all of them, but I had a chance this morning to go through and fix it up. And I made it so that white is the default value for everything, so that just makes it a little easier to deal with. But if I change the blue to not have as high of a specular size, we'll see it change just when it's over the blue spots. So where the blue spots are down here, so if I change that to have much lower green, and then we'll export it. Yeah, so the specular is much smaller in the blue area. It looks a little weird because we never want to do this for an actual model, but for testing it's okay. And then let's change the blue to have a bigger offset. I'm trying to get to the colors right there. Okay, let's try something like that. Oh, wrong button. Okay, so now the blue areas have the specular ring, which you can, it's a little difficult to tell what's going on, but basically if the specular was around the whole object, it would have this ring. So yeah, pretty cool. And okay, so let's set this back to white. Alright, so now it's back to normal, and I can actually go into the material and also edit these values myself. So I already have edited the specular size because default value is pretty big. And then I can change the offset to give it a bigger ring. There's like one, that looks a little weird, doesn't it? parameter that we can't actually affect, which would be kind of like the radius of this ring. We'd actually want to change the specular ramp itself to affect that. But yeah, because when we change the specular size, when you have a ring active, it kind of like pushes it out like that. I wonder... I wonder if there might be a better way to deal with that, because when I change the offset, I really just want the specular to kind of stay the same size, but for the ring to appear. So maybe we can try and do a bit of math for that. Because right now when I change the offset, it both makes the specular bigger and adds the ring, which is not really what I want. Okay, so I think first what I'll do is I'll change the actual specular ramp to to be a bit more symmetric. Because the transition is a lot larger on the inside of the ring. Okay, so let's just export. Okay, yeah, now it has to reload. Okay, yeah, there we go. Okay, so how do I want to go about this? I have like the offset here, and it ranges from 0.1 to 1/2 to 1. And how it works is we kind of add it to the dot. Okay, we still do like... Maybe what we should do is... I wonder if I flipped the order of these operations. Let's see. What am I trying to do here? So... Okay, well this might work. Let's try it. So view... float... view dot... Well, I'll take the normal half direction, the normal dot product between the half direction, which is kind of like an approximation of the reflection. And then we'll apply this. And I guess we won't saturate it right now. Okay, so yeah, this is between -1 and 1, and then this is, well, when we add a power, yeah, it's still between -1 and 1. So I guess the offset, we would take the view dot, yeah, and change it to be between -1/2 and +1/2, and then since the specular offset is always at least 1/2, so that means that the final view dot would always be between 0 and 1, but we can go ahead and saturate it just in case. Yeah. Oh, if I can spell it right. Oh, I just flipped it, or add an extra R, looks like. Okay, and take out some of those extra. So let's see how that math looks. I'll go ahead and reload the game just in case there's something weird going on. First, if I have the specular offset. Okay, so this should be... Okay, well at 1 there should be no ring. Alright, so we take the dot product, and then this... We have everything at default, which it is right now. So at this point... Okay, so at this point the final should be only between 0 and 1/2. Because it should be... Okay, I see. Maybe I need to change the specular offset so that it actually starts at... from 0 and finishes at 1/2. Let me try that. Okay, yeah, so I just kind of shifted the math, and then... But when I change offset, it still increases the size. That didn't actually change anything. Okay, so what I really want to do here is I don't want to like have any other values visible from this. I just want to change the UVs on the specular map or on the specular ramp. I just want to nudge them upwards based on the offset. So maybe I need to saturate it first and then add the specular offset? Well, that would kind of... Would that be any different? Okay, well let's see what that does. I don't know if it will work. It's hard for me to visualize that. Okay, that didn't do... Oh, I have it. Well, even at 0, it doesn't really change anything. So maybe... do I not... Maybe I don't actually multiply this. I saturate it and then... Yeah, I multiply it by the specular offset. So I want to change it because this should be between 0 and 1/2, which is what we want for the final UV lookup. And then when we... The specular offset at maximum would be 2. So... I actually changed this to times 2. Still like making more things visible. We'll probably... because it's like bringing out this whole area, not just this area. All right, let's go back to how it was originally. I'm not sure if this is going to really be possible. Unless I change the way this specular ramp works, which I guess could do. So I could make it so the specular ramp actually like doesn't ever include black. Let's just put the white over the whole area. Actually be something like that. And then the size of the specular highlight is actually only determined by the specular size value. That's probably the way to do it now that I think about it. I'm trying to export this. Okay, so now I'm going to need to reload the game so that the texture updates. Yeah, so right now the specular highlight is really big, and if I just decrease the size... Oh, I see. So the very edges need to be black, probably. Well, that still doesn't help, does it? Let's see what this looks like. If I just made the very edge black... Oh, I guess I'll just copy this. There we go, and export it. So now it kind of looks like how we had it before. Although, yeah, minimum size, that's not adequate anymore. But it's... the offset still makes it larger. Okay, well, I think what's happening, because if we imagine the dot product being 1 right here in the middle, and then it goes to 0 out here, and so when we put the offset to 0, what I really want to do is the size constricts the 0 part of the dot product to move here. And then the specular offset would just offset that part. So, but how do I do that? That's kind of what this power does. Maybe I just need, instead of a power, I just need to have a multiplier. Okay. So now at this point, we don't care about negative values, so I can go ahead and saturate this, I think. This will just go to between 0 and 1. Okay, and then we half it and add the specular offset, but I don't want to do that just yet. So I want to like scrunch this up. and kind of extend the negative part backwards. So okay, I need to flip this over, I think, and then multiply it so that it extends. Okay, so I don't need to saturate this just yet. So I kind of want to bring 1 to the 0 position so that I can scale it upwards, and then I'll flip it back and cut off anything that's past 1. The view dot. This isn't the view dot product anymore. I'll change it later. Equals 1 minus view dot. And then we want to scale this by the specular size. Okay, also I'll just comment that out. And then we want to flip it back around and discard anything that's negative. And then we'll add, okay, and then we need to scale this by half and add a specular offset. Okay, let's get rid of that, just to keep everything the same. Okay, so if this works, I'll add comments. Okay, so the size seems to be fine. Now, hopefully... Okay, no, so the specular offset is still being a bit weird. Oh, well, it's because it's adding even if the specular was 0. So how do I deal with that? So, like, if the view dot is 0, then we want to leave it at 0. Could obviously do it with an if statement, but it's not good to use if statements in shaders. Okay, well, we don't add, we just multiply. Yeah. So this changes to a multiplier between 1 and 2. Okay, well, that changes everything to 0, so that's not what I want, obviously. Okay, so right now this is between 0 and 2. So I want to take this. So I want white to be 1 because that would be no offset. So I take, the 0. Okay, so I just multiply by 2 and then add 1. Yeah. Okay, that's what I want, except I don't know what's going on there. I think it's looping. So I need to change the specular ramp to be clamped. Okay, so I think this is how I want it to look. The offset does not change the size of the specular highlight. Yeah, I think that's exactly what I want. I might want to increase the maximum value of this size, but let's let it go from 1 to 50 and just see how that looks. And then I want to change this. So the range would be from 1 to 2. Okay, yeah, that's probably a better range to add more control. And it works fine on these objects as well. How does it look on the box, actually? Okay, so when you have an offset on a box, I think it just never does a specular highlight. Well, no, it does. It's just hard to... Yeah, you wouldn't ever see the ring. That's kind of weird, but... I guess on any kind of box like that, you probably wouldn't have a ring specular highlight anyway. Okay, so I think we're finally done with specular stuff. Alright, so now we want to tackle rim lights and emissive textures. I guess let's do a rim light first. And again, I'm going to look up Minion Art's tutorial because I think she has a great, easy way to do a rim light. It's kind of like the opposite of a specular light in that it does a faint light on the border of an object. Where is it? Maybe it's in this one. Okay, that's more like how to do the coloring. Okay, yeah. This is more like an outline, but it'll be how we'll try to get it to look. Yeah, so the main thing about the light is that okay, so light direction. Okay, so how she's doing it is actually lighting an actual outline instead of having actual rim light on the object. Maybe that might be the way to go, actually. Yeah. I know it's not that difficult to add a rim light. I just need to look up the math behind it. But I think it might be fine to do it on the outline, actually. Okay, so I guess, yeah, let's try an outline. Yeah, because that's probably true. Adding a rim light to the model might not look too good with low polys, but we can try it out too. But yeah, the basic idea of a rim light, I think, is that instead of using the normal and taking the dot product with the light, you actually want to light as the dot product equals 0, because that would be that they're at 90-degree angles. So, well, let's go ahead and try it. So instead of view dot, let's call this that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to try to rename it. I don't know the keybind in this program. Oh yeah, I do. This is Visual Studio. Okay, yeah, but you can't refactor shader code. That's the issue. So I want to change this to the specular. I guess UV. And then this light dot, we'll change that to the albedo UV. Well, maybe because we'll need to add on the rim lighting to the ramp as well. Yeah, that will be interesting. Yeah, actually, now that I think about it, I don't know how a rim light would interact with a toon shader ramp because we have, let's see. It's basically at, so this is halfway. Okay, let's turn the game on so we can see the actual lighting. Because the rim light would only play for the main light. Or only be added for the main light. And so, yeah, this edge right here. Oh, wait, how does that work? Because this is a full color. I guess it's just at a high dot for a long time. Oh, this is the secondary lights toon ramp. I guess I didn't save the original one. That's kind of annoying. But we can look at it at the actual file. Okay, yeah, this makes more sense to me. But anyway, I think this is the at one arm. The halfway point on the texture corresponds to a dot product of 0, which would be 90 degrees. And so the rim light, I think, would kind of like add, it would like expand this inner area. And in order for there to be any effect, it would have to touch the outside, like another step on the ramp. And I think it would just kind of look messy. So yeah, the more I think about it, I think adding a rim light to the actual object might not be the best idea, but outlining or lighting the outline of object will probably look pretty good. All right, so let's get started on that. So we don't even have outlines at all so far. And it'll be interesting to get them working with the deferred pipeline. Speaking about that, we should check to make sure that all the changes I just made to specular still works in the deferred pipeline. It should be fine, but we'll switch to the game and oh, it is already in deferred. Yeah, so there's no changes. That little bit of changing pixels is because anti-aliasing doesn't work in deferred. You have to do an actual screen effect, which I haven't set up yet, but okay, so let's switch to forward now because we're going to be testing out the outlines. And what I need to do is we'll need to add another pass here. Or do I need to do that? I know you do, and Like I would add another outline or another pass if I was using a surface shader, but I'm not sure if it's required. Okay, here. Well, let's just try it this way. I mean, it's not going to be that big of a deal. One thing I don't know is what tags I would give it. Let's just try it out and see. So we don't need as much of a pragma for this. And actually, one thing I'll do, I already wrote most of this for another project, so I might just bring it in. Let me pull that up. Yeah, I was playing around with shaders the other weekend, and I actually did outlines, so if I can find it. Okay, yeah, so let's copy this pass. And I was using a surface shader for this, so I don't know exactly how it will work. Okay, yeah, so this always, maybe that's the issue, maybe that's the keyword. And the main thing about the outline shader is it takes the model and extends everything along the XY plane in the view. I can go to that. In the view, what's the word? The view space. That's what this does. It takes the normal, transforms it into from local space into view space. Oh wait. Yeah, I guess it changes it into view space, and then this changes it into projection space. Yeah, so I'm using those terms. I usually call views. I think what Unity is calling view space, or excuse me, view space. I usually refer to camera space, but anyway, the projection is what you actually see on the screen. And so what you need to do is just offset it by the XY plane, which will basically squish it outwards on the screen, and then the Z here puts it behind anything else. And then this text2D LOD is just how you read a texture during a vertex program instead of a fragment program. We'll also need to get outline color and the outline itself. Another thing I did here, yeah, is I actually read the texture from for the actual object at this point, just to kind of color the outline. Let me see. Oh, I have it open in here. I guess I should also get the main text scale and tiling. Hey, Offie Gamer, I'm doing pretty good. Working on some outlines right now for this shader. How are you doing today? Alright, and so now we do have an outline. So if I change the width... Okay, yeah, that looks pretty good. Is it... the color is black, so I actually want to change it to white. Yeah, so now you can see the textures outline, and... do I want that to happen? The outline goes away when we move over another object. I guess that's because I pushed the Z backwards. Oh, glad to hear it, that you're doing well. Yeah, I'll need to look into that. I think it's because the Z is being pushed backwards. But I think if I don't have this, then it's gonna, yeah, the models are gonna fight between each other. You want to get into game development, but you need a good PC or laptop. Yeah, that can be a problem. Unity's editor is a bit of a resource hog. Let's actually try it in play mode. Yeah, it does work, except I don't really like that the outline is hidden when another object is over it, so I'll need to look into how to fix that. Okay, maybe I want to just darken the outline just slightly. And now in deferred mode, how would this look? Does it work already? No. That's because it doesn't draw to the buffers. Okay, so before I get too much in the here, I should probably make a new include file. So let's call this tune outlines. CG include, and I think we should be able to get it to work just like anything else in the deferred mode, except to get it to have a rim light. Well, no, we'll just mess with the normals. I think that should be okay. Not good RAM. You keep needing to delete things on your disk, download stuff. Storage isn't good. Yeah. RAM I find is a really big issue with game development because you usually will have a lot of programs open. So that can really eat up your system's RAM. Okay, so tune outlines included. And again, we have to do this because the CG compiler is not smart enough to know if it's already included a file. So if you include something twice, then it'll actually load those functions twice and give you an error. So you have to manually tell it not to load this twice. Okay, so what I really want to do is have a vertex and fragment function. I think I might copy them from here because I already have this fragment output. I don't know if I'll need any include files in here. But I won't need that. Basically, let's see. I want to copy this output into this vertex function. And I want to get this because that's the only thing we need. And you might be wondering what this uniform keyword is. It really just means that it won't change depending on what fragment we're working on. Unity includes them, but I don't think you really need to because I think the compiler is smart enough to figure that out itself. What amount of RAM would you say is best for making games or coding and compiling? Well, I think I have 12 gigabytes. which nowadays isn't a ton, but that's always been enough for me. I think you could probably get by with 8 unless you're doing a lot of like rendering in 3D as a bare minimum, but that wouldn't be very, I guess, future-proof because I think RAM is just going to start needing more and more. Okay, so we just return the color, so we can leave that. Don't need the ramp. Okay, so I'm hoping that we'll be able to use just this same G-buffer type things for the outline here. And we'll basically trick the shader by rotating the normal so that when we want the rim light to be visible, it will point directly at the light. Or directly at the main light, yeah. Yeah, that should be okay. It'll get lighting from other lights, but I mean, that's not a huge deal. Okay, so here... What else do I need? So yeah, the vertex normal and the UV. And then I only pass the position and the color to the fragment. Which I guess we can still do the color, but we'll need to do a little bit more work on the fragment to figure out the normal. Like I think we'll have to do this work in the fragment function because we'll need to actually pass. Well, no. We'll do this, but then I'll need to pass the normal from the object to the fragment so that I can figure out the lighting. Maybe we could already go ahead and rotate it. Oh yeah, and I'm not... This half is like... This half precision floating point. On desktop it doesn't make any difference. On phones it can, but this game's already not going to be runnable on most phones anyway, so... Because we have modding. So I'm not going to worry about that. Surprised this semantic works. Usually you need to use text chords. I'll just do that. And then yeah, normal text chord 1. Oh, I'm actually changing this up. I should be changing it in my outline. Don't need the UV because we've already calculated that. And we definitely want to calculate the color and the vertex function because we kind of want the color to be blended between each vertex so it's not so detailed. So this can basically stay the same except I need to pass the normal through. And how would I need to rotate it. Let me see. That's actually interesting. Not sure how I'll deal with that math because I want to rotate it so it's pointing towards the main light. I wonder if we have that light information in the vertex function. But I want to rotate it so that when their dot product of the normal or the regular normal is 0, which means they're at 90-degree angles where the rim light would be strongest. Well, no, that's not true because the outline, yeah, it's always on the edge. So let's see. The light direction to the outline of the vertex shader. Oh, okay, that's kind of cool. That makes the the outline thicker where the light's touching it. We might try that. Hi, Ekrod C. Thanks for stopping by. Any good resources for learning to make shaders? Yes, definitely. There's a website called Cat Light Coding. That's has a wonderful, huge series on how basically Unity's default surface shaders work, and that's basically where I learned how to write shaders in Unity. So I would recommend that. Also, again, this person has a bunch of tutorials on shaders. What's it? Yeah, Minions Art on Twitter. So I'd look up both of those if you're interested. Yeah, because Unity's documentation is sadly not very good with shaders. So you kind of have to look to outside sources. Okay, so what am I trying to do here? Let's just forget about lighting for now and make sure this works in a deferred pass. Okay. So if it's not deferred, I just need to pass the color through. If it is deferred, I send the color to the albedo buffer. No specular, so I can just... okay, so the specular color, we just need to have it... Well, there's no specular color, it's just the specular information. So the strength would be 0 and nothing else matters. And then here is the normal. I think I'll just send 0 because I need to figure out how I want to deal with that. And then this is the light accumulation, which we won't do anything with yet. Okay, so does this work? Or does it compile at least? Yes. Yeah, I think you'll like them, Ekrod. They're very, both of those people are really great. Okay, and then I'll include my new tune outlines file right here, and so hopefully this will run. Did I? Yeah, vertex vert fragment frag. Okay, so that's all set up. Something's wrong. UV main text. Oh, I just changed this to the UV instead of UV main text because there's only one set of UVs for these models. Text 2D, LOD. Oh, what's a float for? I don't know. Maybe I'm not understanding the text2d LOD function. Oh, I'm surprised that didn't work. Okay, well, I'll just pass 1, 1. Okay, seems like that is fine. Okay, so now we have the real textures visible again. And okay, I am in deferred mode. Not visible. Maybe there's a different light mode for always deferred. Okay, so normal, forward base, forward add. Doesn't have the always in here. Always rendered, no lighting is applied. How does, I mean, because in here they, like Minions Art still uses, yeah, it still uses lights, so apparently you can still access them. But I can't, I guess it doesn't go in deferred. I wonder if I had 2 deferred passes, if that would work. Okay, that does work. There's some, you can see the outline around the head. I guess that's fine. How does Unity render this though? Let's look at the frame debugger. Okay. That must be the outline, but it doesn't show up. Okay, yeah, so this is the outline, so it deals with that first and then puts the other one on top. That's exactly what I want it to do. Trying to see the depth buffer just because I'm curious, but it doesn't seem to... Okay, there it is, but... The depth buffer doesn't show up. I know there's some way to see it. I guess it doesn't matter that much. Okay, this is the normals. Oh wait, no, normals is in 2. Okay, and we just don't even pass any normals during the outline. Oh yeah, that's the specular information. Okay, so I think this pretty much works. Although we see now that for every object with an outline, we have to draw it twice. But I think that'll be okay because we have low poly models and there's not going to be a ton of them on the screen at once that have an outline. Okay, so I need to copy this pass and have a deferred and then an always pass. I guess maybe I should just call it forward base. It always seems to work. And then this does not run in deferred mode. So I think I'll actually pass or move this down. And I should define this as well. Uh-oh. Not have a method color and tune outlines. Oh. So we weren't even running a deferred mode before? I must have messed that up. Well, I think it worked okay because everything was set to 0 anyway. Okay, and there's no outline on the other ones because we set Or how come there's an outline on them? Maybe the outline color was set to black. Okay, yeah, so now it has the outline meshes. But I think the outline width is still too low to see. Yeah, it doesn't look good on this box because the normals aren't smoothed. So that's another problem with with outlines, but I don't think we'll have any boxes like this in the final game, so it will be okay. Alright, so again, in deferred mode, everything looks fine. So now the only issue is how do I light the outlines and get that to work in deferred mode. Are they colored or it's hard to see? Let's move the camera. I'm trying to rotate. I was using blender keys. I move that really close to Ecdino. Oh yeah, this isn't right at all. The outline's drawn over Ecdino in deferred mode, even though the frame debug that's interesting. So it seems like it saves. Well, no. Okay. I think what's happening, because it doesn't. Like if the outline always rendered on top of anything else, like at first, my first thought was that, okay, well, it's whatever goes in the buffer first stays. But if that was true, then we'd only see the outline. So what's actually happening is the depth is higher for the outline, so it's keeping that information instead of the mesh that's below it. So do I need to move on deferred mode? I need to move these even farther back, like almost to the far plane, so they're behind everything else. What I'd really like to happen is, though I don't know if it's possible, is for the outline for this object to be drawn and then the other one is on top of it, but that's kind of how it works in forward rendering, but let's see. So if I set this, I don't know, just some big number. Do I have the far clip plane? I don't know. Let's just set it to like -100 for now. We won't keep that, but I think that might make it not even show up, actually. Alright, so yeah, what I need to do is get the far clip plane in the shader, which I'm pretty sure there's a way to do. Projection param, screen parameters. Okay, so it's projection parameter Z is the camera's far plane. I don't know what space that's in, but So I just want to add a very small value to this so it'll be just above the far plane. Okay, so obviously that's still too small. Or, yeah, too deep. Maybe it's gotta be negative. Nope. Maybe there's a better way to do this. Let's... Unity, deferred outline. Unity published nice slide deck. Okay. Yeah, I didn't think about this, so I haven't researched it ahead of time, but... Okay, let's set at line... Our slides 46. Maybe I'll move on to supporting other lights, but... Okay. Yeah, so this is kind of what we want. Okay, so it's usually an image effect, which we could do. So you render after the geometry pass. Okay, well this kind of just tells you a high level, but I'm not sure what a syllable filter is. Global post effects, so in case you only want outline selected objects, render them again and have opaque Q and set syllable filter with depth and perhaps normals. Okay. Well, yeah, I'm gonna need to research that. I think we'll move on to something else because I don't really know how I tackle it. So, okay. It works fine in forward mode, but not deferred mode, and I definitely want it to work in deferred mode, so I'll need to figure that out. But for now, let's try something else. Did I break it in forward mode now too? That's okay. I'll just, whatever I do, I'll probably have to apply to both of them anyway. So let's just turn off outlines. All right. So yeah, I'll come back to that. And yeah, that ties into the rim light as well. Okay, so emissive textures will be pretty easy. I think how I'll do it is I'll just have a flag in the specular map, and I'll use the alpha. So if alpha is low, then a certain area will glow. So let's change it so the spot shapes will glow. And in shader, how I'd handle that is, well, for deferred mode, we add it into this our fourth graphics buffer, which is basically accumulates lighting effects, but at the very beginning when we're building it, we can put in glowing colors. And for the deferred pass, we would just pass in an emissive color. Or the forward pass, I mean. So let's add float 3. Oh, actually, I think how I'm going to do it is the emissive value will just be the albedo. And how you add emissive for forward rendering is you just add the albedo. Albedo times spec. Let's do this. Float emissive strength is 1 minus the specular info dot alpha. Which right now it's a float 3, so I want to change that to float 4. Yeah, and it's really as simple as that. Then for deferred, we'll just start. Actually, no, we won't do anything because the tune lighting also adds in the emission. So yeah, we'll just leave it. I don't have to change anything else, I don't think. Uh-oh, problem. Tune line cannot convert from float 3 to float 4. Oh, yeah, right here. So specular info just needs to be a float 4. And also in the material shader. It's already a float 4. But I filter out the RGB, so I'll just pass the whole thing now. Okay, so yeah, we can see even in the editor right now that the blue spots are glowing a bit. So in game, they're just brighter now. Actually not quite as bright as I thought it would be. It did output correctly, right? And let's look at these spots and change this to be full alpha and see how it looks. Okay, yeah, so I guess it was glowing, but it's just hard to see. Okay, yeah, there we go. So that's really all emission is. I don't know how much I'll want to use it. I'm surprised this is actually quite a bit darker than I thought. Maybe just the eggshell color is kind of dark by itself. But yeah, I think that's basically the idea of it. I don't know how much we'll use it except for like glowing eyes or something like that. But it's easy to add support for, so I thought why not? Okay, so what else? We really just need to do different kinds of lights and shadows. And of course the outline, but we're gonna have to wait on that. I guess I'll change this back to normal. Okay, so different lights. Let's I already have support for 2 lights. And I guess I should test to make sure it hasn't broken while I've been messing around with all the specular highlights, but it looks okay. Yeah, that happens with all lights, so when we add shadows, that should fix that. If I switch to deferred mode, hopefully this will still work. No. Can't implicitly convert from float 3 to float 4. Usually it catches this stuff before runtime. Oh. I just need to get all components. Alright, so in deferred mode it still looks fine. Okay, so alright, so let's do point lights first, and I guess I'll just create one. And maybe I'll just switch this over to a point light. I mean, it's right now it works, but it doesn't really make much sense. Actually, it surprisingly it shouldn't work already because I don't support point lights. Maybe they work out of the box in deferred mode. I'm actually in forward, so let's call this light 2. If I move it out of range, yeah, that's one issue because I think, yeah, they just blink on and off, and we definitely want to lerp between that. I'm surprised that worked out of the box. Okay, so first what you want to do when you have lights is you need to do something called a multi-compile so that Unity will compile multiple versions of your shader for different kinds of lights. And I forget the exact line for that. That's basically what all this is. So multi-compile forward additive, which is the different lights. And we're not going to do shadows right now, so although I guess if I add it, it's not going to be a big issue. Okay, let's just do the forward. No, I guess we'll do both. Well, actually, in the forward base, I don't... Oh yeah, it's multi-compile forward base. Alright, and if we look at the shader, we should be able to see a whole bunch of shader variants. Yeah, so it has directional with a light map, dynamic light map, all different kind of stuff. And then, yeah, here's what we're interested in. So point light, directional light, spotlight, point cookie, directional cookie, Where's the... Oh yeah, spot... I think spotlights always have a cookie, so it doesn't even have a separate thing for that. And then shadows. I forget. Yeah, let's maybe add one at a time just to keep things straight. I forget the way that you do that. So let me look at cat light coding real quick. Yeah, so multiple lights. So we have the forward additive. Already done that. Yeah, point lights here is where the magic happens. But oh yeah, so just define point. Is that? Yeah, I wanted a shader variant. Okay, so this is multi-compile. And this is how we'll do it right now as well. Kind of bothers me that's not directional light and point light, but Unity uses these keywords even though they're kind of ambiguous. So we'll deal with this instead of doing a forward base. Do I need to... This is forward add. I don't think that a point light can ever be in the forward base pass, so... So on the base pass, we'll just define directional. And it'll delete that for now. Any problems so far? So now if we look at the shader variants, it has directional and point and then every combination of that. And I still can't believe it works so far. But yeah, like I said, we need to take into account both the light fading as it gets farther from the point light and then turning off when it gets, well, it already takes care of turning off when it gets away. We have the intensity. Indirect multiplier has to do with shadows, so we won't use that. Okay, but then in cat light coding, we need to change a bit about how we deal with the light. Okay, so it already has this Unity light attenuation. Maybe we can just use this. The 0 has to do with shadows, so that way maybe we won't have to have a whole bunch of different versions of the function. Okay, but we do need to normalize the direction. That's what I thought. I was like, how is this working already? Okay, yeah, so that's deferred, of course. Then we have Unity light attenuation, which just uses this macro, and it actually defines this variable. It's a little confusing. And do we have... I have the world position already, so we're good there. And then we'll multiply the color by the attenuation. And that should work already. Yeah, so it gets... changes. Okay, so here we can actually see a problem. It's not actually the direction. But yeah, so the attenuation is kind of working. Then another thing we need to do is get the right direction. And it's basically, if we're in a point light, we need to subtract the world space light position from world position and then normalize that. So if Oh yeah, hash if defined point else end if. I guess we'll need to get like a local light direction. Oh well, no, we could just pass it right here. Yeah, directional, this works fine. Otherwise, light direction equals. Okay, so I think it's, yeah, the direction the light's moving, so it starts at world space light position and moves towards i.world pose. So world pose minus world space. Just pick the wrong variable there. I guess we'd just take the XYZ and then we'll normalize this so that it's a unit vector. Okay. I got that right. No, I did not get that right. I probably did it backwards. I did do it backwards. Okay. I almost always trying to do changes or like deltas like that are for me to visualize in my head, but luckily it's easy to test. Okay, so there we go. Now it's actually pointing at the light. Yeah, that looks pretty cool, actually. Yeah, so the specular is very strong, and also the albedo. I wonder... It'd be a cool effect if we could have the specular size also be changed based on the strength of the specular, or the light color. That wouldn't be too difficult to do. Let's see. Times max light. Let's not do it right in line. I really should write comments here, actually. We want to shrink the size of the specular highlight with spec size and then spec UV only I guess stretches UVs. So here we we'll come back to that. I don't want to lose my train of thought with lights. So specular strength is the max of light color R, and then max, if I can spell light correctly, color green and light color blue. Oh, changing to specular strength. I actually want to do specular size. Specular strength. Do we? Okay, no, I don't change that already. I guess we could do the strength as well, because it would kind of fade out as the specular goes away. Let's see. Light strength is Gosh, float, light strength. Oh, I was actually setting the specular strength. I want to multiply it. Oh, I forgot the semicolon. Okay, well that is kind of a cool effect, but it's not really what I wanted. Or is it what I want? That's actually, that's not what I thought. I thought as I got farther away that the specular should get smaller. But now that I think about it, this actually looks really good. So if I changed... I just wish that I could kind of... Because if I change this all down, then that also happens to this directional light, but I guess that's okay. I kind of wish that I could have this light strength as another value here, but I'm already using the alpha for the ramp. Yeah, I kind of do like that, actually. I guess I could see what it looks like the other way. So the other way would be like... How would I do it? I need to multiply it here before I negate it. Okay, here it doesn't really seem to make... Like, it doesn't have as dramatic an effect. But as I move away, the size gets smaller. Actually, does it do anything? Okay, so as the strength gets lower, this value gets smaller, so the specular size gets bigger. It's not really that noticeable, actually. Oh wait, am I... I mean, it's still fading out fine, but the size isn't changing, which is a little weird to me. Okay, so I think if I moved this out here, then it would be like how it was before. So let me just make sure that... Yeah. So this is the size... Okay, yeah, the specular size value gets smaller, which actually makes the specular highlight itself bigger. And so the other one... specular size value was getting smaller, so it was making, or wait, it was getting bigger, so it was making the size smaller as it disappeared, which actually didn't really have much of an effect. I guess you can kind of see it, but I think that this is kind of a natural thing. So yeah, I definitely like the other way. So what does the intensity here do? Okay, so as long as, excuse me, that just must be a multiplier on the color. I think for my game it should always just stay at 1. Because I think that just multiplies the color times 2. Does it change? I don't think it... Yeah, it doesn't change the ramp, thankfully. So we could use it, but... I wonder if we can access this intensity. Well, the light... Oh, it does have an intensity, doesn't it? Because if I could access this in the shader, we could basically have it do what I wanted from before. Let me see. Unity, light, intensity, shader. I have a feeling it's just multiplied into the color. Yeah, so it's just the light pre-multiplied with the intensity. Yeah, because the color is not limited between 0 and 1. I guess that's... I mean, it's a bit of a shame. Because if I could get that value separately somehow... then I could use it to determine this value for the specular size, but I guess it's not really that different. Yeah, it might turn out to be functionally identical now that I think about it. But yeah, so it looks like we have point lights working. So when I zoom out, they do fade nicely. Oh, I need to change this back to 1. So now let's try and get a spotlight. I think I'll duplicate this actually. And I want to rotate it so that it faces our objects. Okay, and yeah, you can see right there. It's still a square because we don't read the light cookie. And the light cookie is what changes it into the actual circle that it should be. Let's change it to a different color. This will be purple. Let's actually make it more red to distinguish from the blue light. Alright, and they add spotlight, we have to add a spot shader variant. Yeah, and by the way, none of these other lights will work on the deferred mode yet. We can actually test that. Okay, so for some reason when I did that, the other lights just disappeared. Oh, well the blue one's still there. I guess it just didn't try to apply the spotlight to some other type. But if I change the camera to... Oh, it is already in deferred, so if I look in the game, yeah, you can't see the point light. Or actually, can you? It doesn't work right, it just lights everything. Same with the red one. Let's enter the game, actually. So it kind of works, actually. I think it's only because it's like applying that information wrongly to the deferred shader. You can see, yeah, that the blue is behind it. Because I think it's trying to put everything into directional mode, so... But we'll go and fix that separately after I get it working in forward rendering. Alright, so back to Catlight coding, we did spotlight. Unity light attenuation already does some information for the spotlight apparently. So it said that should be enough to get it to work, but it doesn't for our system. Yeah, I don't see anything. Oh, probably because if I go to here, yes, if defined point. So probably I need this to be if defined point or defined spot. No? Let's take a look. Create light, so point cookie or spot. Yeah, so this is right. What am I doing wrong then? Yeah, I will go ahead and pass XYZ to this in case we ever have to get a 4-dimensional world position, which the W component is sometimes important. Okay, so it doesn't appear. I'm in forward rendering mode, so let's rotate it around and see if that affects anything. Trying to get shine on egg dino now. There we go. So yeah, it should. Like it's inside the cone. And definitely range is long enough. So if deferred pass, yeah, it doesn't do anything. If point or spot... Did I maybe put spot in the wrong... Oh, I put it in the... No, this is right. Forward add. A forward base. And if I look on the shader, it should have that shader variant. Yeah, directional point and spot. I wonder if it's because the forward rendering is not adding in a pixel light here. If I change this to point, does it work? Directional does work. Point does not. Oh, what am I doing? Oh. Okay, I have no idea what's happening to the game mode. Why did it turn? I just pressed Q. Oh, it was searching for something. Okay, I was like, why is it all gray? I turn this light back on, it does work. And I should have 4 pixel shaders in the quality settings, so it's not like, I don't know why the game would, or why Unity would try to, or not support 3 lights, because there's only 2 active right now anyway. Yeah, graphics. Maybe it's in quality settings. Yeah, I have 4 pixel lights. Alright, well, so even when I turn this off, the spotlight doesn't work. But when I switch to deferred, it does show up. I have a feeling that Unity is just not rendering this for some reason. I guess one way to tell is if I switch the toon shader to the standard shader. Yeah, it's not rendering the red light because the red light doesn't even work on the standard shader. Okay, maybe something's weird about that asset. Let's just create a spotlight. Change it to red. And then rotate it around to actually face something. Okay, it still doesn't draw. And again, let's set this to the standard shader. And again, just turn this on and off. Alright, so yeah, Unity's just not drawing it. I don't really know why, because I have 4 pixel shaders enabled. And I only have 1 other pixel light turned on. That's why I don't like forward rendering. So it's trying to render this light as a vertex light, which is are not going to support because there's no way you can get. You can't really cell shade it because you can't get the light direction from that, as far as I know. Okay, well, I was going to move on to deferred mode, but it's actually just now time to stop. But at least we got point lights working and a little bit with outlines and specular highlights done. So still pretty productive. And I mean, spotlights should work. They just don't. Okay, so point. Let's do this. I just need to add support for deferred to both of these. And I don't know. See why Unity won't render any spotlights. Okay, and so for the outline, I want to add a rim light to the outline and get it working in deferred mode and see if I can get outlines to render over objects behind. Yeah, so right now the outline always renders under every other object, so I'd like it to render under our own mesh but over other objects that are behind us. I'm not sure if that'll be really possible just because of the way shaders work, so we might just stick with this, but I'd really like that. Okay, and then we need to do cookies. Spotlights pretty much already have cookies enabled, but just in case. And I guess we'll need cookies for this. Yeah, and then shadows are the only other big thing we want to add besides outlines and light support. Alright. So I guess that's it for me for today. By the latest, I'll be back on Monday around noon, but I keep on saying this every time. I want to try and stream some other projects. I just haven't had a chance, so we'll see. But if you want to be notified when I go live next, feel free to follow me here on Twitch, or also I have a Twitter where I'll post live when I go live. I also have a YouTube channel where I upload all past streams, and then Discord where you can chat with me throughout the day. I'd love to have you there. But I'll have links in chat, or also you can look in the video description. And yeah, I think that's it. Thanks everybody for coming by and putting up with me trying to learn all these shaders. I hope that you've learned something too. And I'll be back later. See you then. Bye-bye.